Hi friends, welcome back to today's video. I think this may be my favorite video I film all year. One, I just love doing TBRs and I love using the TBR board game. But two, I'm going to be setting my October TBR, and as an October baby, October is my favorite month of the year. There's just nothing better than college football, fall time, and the weather cooling down. So I'm so excited to set my TBR for today. I'm feeling really good entering into this video as well because I did complete my September TBR. So I'm hoping that we just keep the momentum rolling into October. For any friends that might be new here, I'm going to be using my Bookopoly board game. I think I actually made this 1 year ago today because I used this for the first time in October of last year. I'm thinking it may be fun to do a revamp of this board starting next year, but for now she does the job and we have a lot of fun using this. Because my main genres I read are fantasy and romance, you'll see that there are just fantasy and romance genre selections that we can land on, but I do have some other things to spice it up and keep it interesting. For instance, I have a number generator or a letter generator, TBR jar prompts, as well as library picks, and the corners are where things can get really interesting with the lowest rated on my TBR, a free pick, and a book that I've been avoiding. So with that out of the way, make sure to go down below, like, subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and let's go ahead and choose my October TBR. Here is our board. We're starting at go, and as the OGs know, we only use one dice to get around so that we don't move through the board too quickly. Let's go ahead and do our first roll. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting off super easy with a Kindle Unlimited pick. As always, now it's time for the fun part where we actually get to choose the books. But first, let's start off talking about some books that I don't actually have physically that I still want to keep on my radar. First and probably most importantly, supporting our local libraries. For my library, I do really want to continue on with the Renegade series by Marissa Meyer and pick up book 2, which would be Archenemies. I am also really intrigued to start a new fantasy series, which I believe follows the different princes of hell and their love interests. So I think this is more of a romantasy. But that would be Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. Additionally, I have a little werewolf romance that one of you guys recommended to me, and that's Fan Service by Rosie, Danan. And then from there, I do have some audiobooks of books that I already do own physically. And this is not an original thought, but I've just noticed that I'm able to get through books so much quicker if I do have the audiobooks with it. So some audiobooks that I also can utilize are Legendborn by Tracy, Deonn, The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. Through Kindle Unlimited, I have so many starts to new fantasy series that I want to pick up. Would love to pick up A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab, Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole, This Woven Kingdom by Tahara Mafi, Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent, Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And honestly, I'm just going to stop myself there because there are more that I could list, but we need to be realistic. And a few audiobooks that I have on Audible that might be good for this time of year is Burial Bones and the Midnight Soil, also by V.E. Schwab, and The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. So with all of that out of the way, and I know that was a very long-winded way to get to our first book pick, which is going to be a Kindle Unlimited read. So thinking about some of those books that I mentioned, I think what feels the least intimidating and will eventually help me get through a book that's on my physical TBR is if I finally read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This has been on my radar since January whenever I originally added it to my 2025 TBR. Me personally, I really do want to read the Shadow and Bone trilogy before getting to Six of Crows. I already own Six of Crows, so it's best that I start working through this original trilogy. But if I look on Goodreads, the summary of the book says, surrounded by enemies, the once great nation of Ravka has been torn in two by the Shadow Fold, a swath of near impenetrable darkness crawling with monsters who feast on human flesh. Alina has never been good at anything, but when her regiment is attacked on the Fold and her best friend is brutally injured, Alina reveals a dormant power that saves his life, a power that could be the key to setting her rural-ravaged country free. Alina is whisked away to the royal court to be trained as a member of the Grisha, the magical elite led by a mysterious darkling. With darkness looming and an entire kingdom depending on her untamed power, Alina will have to confront the secrets of the Grisha and the secrets of her heart. Honestly, I'm even more excited to pick this up now that I've actually read the summary. It also does seem like it's going to be YA, which generally is a little bit less intimidating to get in for me. I feel like YA fantasies are just a bit more digestible because the world building isn't as intense. And I've heard that the spin-off series after this with Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom only gets better, so I'm very excited to pick this up. Time for rule number 2. 1. I landed on this last month as well, so this feels a little bit cruel. Lowest rated on my TBR. I have no idea what's in the water with reading the lowest rated books on my TBR, but it worked out well for me last month because I ended up reading A Tempest of Tea and I really did enjoy that. So I'm going to open up my Goodreads want to read list. Now I have like 80 books on my want to read list and I only own about 20 of those physically. So I'm going to sort this by average rating, and we're going to choose the lowest rated book on my TBR that I actually have physically. So I have it sorted by rating and it's currently showing me my highest rated books. So I'm going to go ahead and hit reverse and see which ones we actually have physically. I'm noticing this top book, which is To Have and To Heist by Sarah Desai. I don't actually own physically, so I won't be reading that. But the next lowest rated book, which I wanted to get to anyways in this month because this is very October coded, is Witches Get Stuff Done by Molly Harper. So again, I feel like even though lowest rated book is trying to trip me up, it's actually working out really well for me since I was already planning on picking this up regardless. I thrifted this back last summer, originally with the intention to read it last fall, but I just simply ran out of time with all the seasonal reads. So this has just kind of been hanging out on my shelf for well over a year now until I could get to it this fall. But I think this is just going to be a little cutesy witchy romance. It is less than 300 pages. The text is huge, and the back of the book says, "From the moment Riley Everett set foot in Starfall Point, magic bubbled inside of her. But with only her late aunt's journals and a live-in ghost butler to instruct her on all things witchy, including her newly inherited Victorian haunted house, Riley seeks out a coven for sisterhood and support. The last person she expects to be drawn into is the town's frustrating yet ridiculously attractive head librarian. Edison Held knows almost everything there is to know about Starfall Point, but Shadow House was always off limits thanks to its elusive owner. If he can convince the new owner, Riley, to let him take a peek inside, there's so much he could learn. But as he gets closer to Riley, he's fascinated by her dazzling wit and fiery spirit. Edison will do whatever he can to help Riley keep her family legacy alive, especially if it means spending more time with the captivating new witch in town." It's witchy, there's a haunted house, and a head librarian. I think this is going to be the perfect seasonal read. Time for rule number 3. Another one. Taking us to romance. Book 3, time for a romance, and I do kind of want to stay on the trend of seasonal romance reads just because this is the best time to get to them. So I had originally added this to my fall TBR, and I think this is the perfect month to pick this up. That would be The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. This is about two wolf shifters who agree to be fake mates but unexpectedly find something real in this steamy paranormal romantic comedy. As I had also mentioned, I do have the audiobook accessible through my library, so I think this will just be a very cutesy book to have on in the background, maybe as I'm decorating or just simply driving around. I have randomly heard so many good things about this werewolf steamy rom-com, which I really have no idea why. This seems like something that really isn't set up for success. I know that Lana Ferguson writes her spice, so I am expecting this to be quite steamy, but I really am hopeful that I'm going to love this. And I think Lana Ferguson recently released a new book that's kind of in the same universe. I'll add a picture of the book and the release date if that is true, but regardless, I'm really excited to get to this one, and I think it's going to be the perfect October read. Almost halfway there. Time for rule number 4. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Library. I'm very excited that book number 4 is allowing me to use my library because, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the library TBR is kind of stacked right now. So I'm going to focus on books that I don't actually own physically for this prompt. So that would leave me with Archenemies, which is book number 2 in the Renegade series, the start of a new fantasy series, which is Kingdom of the Wicked, and Fan Service by Rosie Danan. Since I am already starting a new series with Shadow and Bone, and I think I started 2 or 3 series last month as well, I'm a little bit hesitant to add Kingdom of the Wicked at this point. So I think I'm going to continue on with the Renegade series and add Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. I read book 1, Renegades, in my 24-hour readathon that I just posted, and I was actually obsessed with it. I found the whole plot to be so fun and engaging. It is a YA sci-fi novel following Nova and Adrian. We kind of get introduced to Noah basically through her villain origin story. And she has a secret identity and is part of the anarchist group, and they're kind of viewed as the villains within this society. Now Adrian is part of the good guys throughout this society and is a renegade. However, harper. Adrian also has another identity that he's hiding from everyone. His and Nova's story gets intertwined as she does some undercover work at Renegade's headquarters, and it just leads to so much fun. I would 10 out of 10 recommend the audiobooks because the actual physical books of these are really chunky, but I found the whole superhero, supervillains aspect to be so fun, and I'm really excited to see where book 2 takes us. Time for rule number 5. 2. 1, 2. Another romance. For book 5 being a romance, I'm a little bit worried because that actually ends up being my 3rd romance of this month. And if I'm looking at my romance TBR, she has dwindled. We need to do a restock, which luckily I do have a birthday haul coming up in a little bit, but none of these are really screaming fall to me. I don't think I want to read any from my physical TBR, so let's actually hop back and talk about my library TBR. I do have one romance that I could utilize for my library, and that would be Fan Service by Rosie Danan. As I mentioned earlier, this is a book that one of you guys recommended to me, and I feel like I've seen Elle and Catherine talk about this book as well, but this is another steamy paranormal rom-com where the description says the only place small-town outcast Alex fits in is on the online fan forum she built for the Arcane Files, a long-running werewolf detective show. Her dedication to archiving fictional supernatural lore made her internet famous, even if she harbors a secret disdain for the show's star Devon Ashwood. Ever since his show went off air, Devon and his career have spiraled, but waking up naked in the woods outside his LA home with no memory of the night before is a new low. It must be a coincidence that the once-in-a-century wolf blood moon crested last night. The claws, fangs, and howling are a little bit more difficult to explain away. Desperate for answers, Devon finds Alex, the closest thing to an expert. Once he makes her an offer she can't refuse, these reluctant allies lower their guards trying to wrangle his inner beast. Unfortunately, getting up close and personal quickly comes back to bite them. Honestly, what other month would I read this besides October? We have a werewolf actor turned real werewolf and seeks the fans' help for figuring this out. I think this is going to be silly goofy. I don't know if this is one that I would have ever wanted to buy physically, which is why I think this is perfect getting from my library, but I will be sure to report back at the end of this month on how this steamy werewolf rom-com goes. Time for rule number 6. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fantasy. Finally. Time for a 6-book selection, which will be a fantasy. And I'm very happy about this because definitely when thinking about my October TBR, the main things that were coming to mind were fantasy books. So looking at my fantasy TBR, there are definitely a few books that are sticking out to me. One, I would love to finally start the Legendborn series. At this point, this is one of the books that has been on the TBR for the longest. I really need to just get going and start reading this, but I have been a little bit intimidated because it is a bit chunky and I don't think that this is a completed series just quite yet. I also would love to get to From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. The only thing that really holds me back from this book is this is like a 10-book fantasy series with this and its sister series that you're supposed to read in tandem. I think I need to check off a few of the other series that I'm reading first before I get to this one, but I'm hoping that I can get to this by the end of the year. And probably what would be my most responsible pick is getting to The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. I read book 1 in this series, Once Upon a Broken Heart, this past month. As I mentioned, I do also have this as an audiobook for my library. So I think for my mental health, for planning ahead, let's just go ahead and add The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. I definitely can't read the back of this book to you because it would spoil a lot of things that have already happened in this series and its sister series, Caraval. So Caraval is the original trilogy that came in this universe, which is a YA whimsical romantasy following two sisters as they're introduced to the magical game of Caraval. Now throughout that series, we're introduced to Jax, who's the Prince of Heart and a Fate of this world. And Jax was very much an antagonist and villain throughout the Caraval trilogy, and his story really evolves into this sister series, Once Upon a Broken Heart, where he is our main male character. Our FMC Evangeline seeks him out to make a deal as the love of her life is getting married to someone else. So she makes a bargain that in exchange for 3 kisses, he will stop the wedding. And that deal and those 3 kisses just lead to utter chaos. So the chaos will end up continuing on into book 2. My overall sentiment in both of these series is I think I just missed the boat with these. I think these are definitely better geared towards younger readers, probably around like 14 or above. But me in my mid-20s, these are a little bit immature and too naive for me. But alas, I'd already committed to the bit and bought book 1 and 2 in Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I've just kind of been forcing myself through these. I do know the sentiment is that Once Upon a Broken Heart is the much stronger series, which I would agree with. What I do prefer about these books is that these feel more magical, where Caraval felt more whimsical. But I am under the belief that you should read the Caraval trilogy first and then enter into this world, because those 3 main characters from Caraval play a direct impact into the series as well. Almost to the end and time for roll number 7. 2. Another fantasy pick, and I'm not mad about that. With receiving another fantasy pick, I think I'm just gonna be brave. And I think I'm going to add Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is also a book that was on my 2025 TBR. So this is just going to be very satisfying if I can check off 2 books from that list in this month. Mainly all I know about this series is that it's a King Arthur retelling, but I make the same joke every time. That really doesn't do anything for me because I don't think I know the original King Arthur story anyways. It says, 16-year-old Brie Matthews wants nothing to do with her family memories or childhood home. As she enrolls in a residential program at UNC Chapel Hill, she feels like this will be the perfect escape until Brie witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. A flying demon feeding on human energies. A secret society of so-called Legendborn students hunt that creature down. As she gets intertwined with this secret society, they reveal themselves to be descendants of King Arthur's knights and explain that a magical war is coming. Brie has to decide how far she'll go for the truth and whether she should use her magic to take this society down or join the fight. I believe this is going to be a 5-book series, and I know for sure that 3 books are currently out. Potentially a 4th book is being released soon. So as this series isn't complete, I could binge a few of them while waiting for the other books to be released in this series. The main person I've heard hype this up originally was Carrie Can Read. So I have a feeling that the writing in this book is going to be solid. I'm just hoping that my lack of King Arthur knowledge won't play an impact in my enjoyment levels. Sadly, it's already time for our last roll. Roll number 8. 1. I love whenever we get this prompt. This is my favorite one to land on, which is a TBR jar pick. And now it is time for our last book pick involving the TBR jar. And I did go through and add just a few additional prompts that were more seasonally focused, just to keep things spicy and interesting. So let's go ahead and choose our final book pick. It's going to be this one. I'll let you guys see it first. This says 400 plus pages. Oh, out of focus. That obviously gives us free range of genre, but she's gonna be a little bit chunky. Already that takes out like all of my romance picks. None of these are going to be over 400 pages. I have done a lot from the fantasy TBR. The book I really wanted to add was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, but this is not over 400 pages. This is only like 350. Emily Wilde also isn't over 400. From Blood and Ash, I already talked to you guys about that. I don't know if we're wanting to enter into that. Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, that is another start to another series, which I don't know if I want to enter into. The Half King is another start to a series. Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong. This is definitely over 400 pages, but I really wanted to save this book for November. I don't know why, but this is just absolutely screaming November to me, and I do feel like it's going to be quite a heavy read, and I don't know if I'm ready for that right now. Let me see if I have anything on my phone. I do have Terror at the Gates by Scarlet Sinclair that I can get off of my holds list. I believe that this would be over 400 pages. While this is the start of a series, this book was only just released, so there wouldn't be any other books that I need to read. It says that the ebook Kindle version is 495 pages, so this could work. Kingdom of the Wicked I think would be over 400 pages, but again, that's the start of a series. I'm not really sure if that's what I'm wanting to do right now. On Kindle Unlimited, I do have Rewind It Back, which would be the end of the Windy City series. Let me see if this is over 400 pages. Dang it. This ends on page 378, so this would not meet the prompt. I think I'm going to be stuck with Terror at the Gates by Scarlet and Clair. And that sounds like I'm not excited to read this. I am excited to read this. This was on my fall TBR. It has been on my radar. I think this month is going to be quite jam-packed with a lot of books and a lot of fantasies. So I'm going to need full mental capacity with all of these. And from what I understand, this book is going to follow Lilith. She is a thief who steals magical artifacts, and one day she steals something that has a little bit more than she bargained for. As chaos unfolds and danger comes knocking at her door, she has to do a lot of investigating and figure out either what's going on with this artifact or how to get rid of it. And I think there's a sexy love interest that comes into play to help her on this journey. I've never read anything by Scarlet and Clair before, but I have seen multiple other booktubers rate this really highly. I'm pretty sure Rachel from Raven-Haired Reader really loved this. I believe Emmy and Ellen also rated this pretty highly. So I'm hopeful, but albeit a little bit nervous to add this to the TBR because this is going to be a fully stacked month. So now that we have our 8 books, let's do a quick little recap. Book 1 for a Kindle Unlimited read, I'm going to be starting the Grishaverse and added Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. From there, the lowest rated book on my TBR is a witchy little rom-com called Witches Get Stuff Done by Molly Harper. Book 3 is another romance, and I added The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. From my library, I'm going to be continuing on with the Renegade series, and I added Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. Book 5 is another romance that I'm going to be getting from my library, and that is Fan Service by Rosie Danan. Book 6 was a fantasy, and I added The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. At book 7 for another fantasy, I added Legendborn by Tracy, Deonn. And finally, for a book that's over 400 pages, I added Terror at the Gates by Scarlet and Clair. So that is the end to my monthly TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think this is going to be a really fun month ahead. If you're still watching, go down below and let me know what's a book that you're looking forward to reading in October. And for now, this is where I will love you and leave you, so make sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye guys!